This is Dr. Rado Gaza, who is also in the Department of Forestry and Natural Resources. He's a professor of wood products and industrial engineering. I've asked him to give us an overview of things that you need to do when you're maintaining a boat, winterizing a boat. Because if you're going to be in an aquatics field, you're going to be working with boats most likely. Even though I will tell you, boats suck. I think the best quote I've ever heard is the best day for the boat owner is the day that you buy it and the day that you sell it.
You can find 100 lists for sailboats, big boats, small boats, and they go have a couple hundred items. And I try to pare it down so the more it is, the less likely you are to do it, right? So just really basic stuff. And I split it into 3 phases. One is trailer, another one is the boat or a hull, and then the last one is the engine. And so I made a short little list, and we will go through it. A lot of it is self-explanatory, but I do it after every trip. Usually I check on things before every trip, and then some of these things cost money. What we're going to talk about today, at least pay $1,000 in the marina to have somebody winterize your boat. But for $100 or so in parts, you can do it yourself. Right, so you may want to figure out there's procedures how you check whether that hitch is properly adjusted and fits tight on the receiver ball. Look at your chains, make sure they're not rusted or broken or anything like that. Another thing I didn't mention to the other group is this strap that winches the boat on a trailer and holds it down. Whether that's intact or needs to be replaced. You should be paying attention to this every time you launch the boat and you go park it. That's the only chance you get to check on your bunk boards, right? Bunk boards are the boards with the carpet that the boat sits on. Usually they attach in by screws or nails to these cross members, and they may rust. Sometimes they don't hold right, or they may be misadjusted, misplaced.
So you see how there are 4 of these bunk boards down here? One of these things is not like the others. If you remember that from Sesame Street, if you even watch Sesame Street. There's one there that is not adjusted right, and so that's going to mean that the boats kind of sit funny on the trailer until we adjust that.
Second thing I got on my list is lights and work. Doesn't matter how I try, and it's better now with LEDs. Before we did LEDs, it was even worse. And probably once a year I have to change these lights, especially in the salt water, maybe 5, 6, 8 dunkings. Doesn't matter, you buy the most expensive, most waterproof sealed fixtures. I take them apart, I seal them either with like a bathroom caulk or liquid electric tape or something, or do nothing. Sometimes I drill holes in them, but they're going to get wet by letting it drain. Usually I carry spares for it, and then there's wires. The cheap wires I bought with a couple sets of lights, if you're going to hear a bit of a crumbling. I didn't know what it is, troubleshooting the problem, take the wire in my hands and they just break it apart. So I started, just plugging it in a car. I brought a battery, so we're just going to jump these and see if the lights work. If they work, we will leave it like that. It's good enough for winter. It's probably going to get corroded over winter, so it's the first thing we will check in the spring again. But when we're doing these lights, we will check for all the wires, connections, and then if they work. So basically, grease and water and bearings don't need, we can have 2 of those, right? Not all 3. Anytime you dump these in the water, they a couple of feet deep. The water, there's some pressure at this point. Once they get in here, over the season, the grease and water mix. Sometimes you don't have enough grease in here, and now you get water in your bearings and they will rust. They will get hot. At some point they get so hot that they weld themselves to the spindle typically and just shatter and disintegrate. And at that point, you need to leave the boat where it is, and continue with your car to the closest store and buy the whole new hub, spindle, bearings, and maybe a wheel on there. With the hub. Hub is the center portion of the wheel that holds the bearings and grease, and So there's different ways you can do it, but it involves taking the hub off, taking the bearings out, cleaning the old grease, and then putting it back together. And the spindle is just a metal cone like this, and then the hub bearing comes under it. But this spins, so there's got to be a seal between the hub and the axle so the grease doesn't get out. And those seals go back frequently. If I know it, the wheel starts throwing the grease, and you will see it because that side, inside side of the wheel gets greasy. Maybe a bolt will have some sort of frame, some grease on it. It's a good indication that the seal is bad and it needs to be replaced. Not here, that holds the whole hub to the spindle, and that nut typically has little either clevis or tabs on it to secure it, make sure that it doesn't come loose and the wheel flies up. Let's see if it goes. So when you put this back on, you have to get it just right because that's what determines if your bearing is too tight or too loose. So that's our outboard bearing and our washer. So that's the spindle. Yeah, that seal is throwing some grease out, but not too bad. So that's the inboard bearing. This is the outboard bearing. And they just ride in here like that. One here, one there. And also this is what happens. Yeah, you might want to get a picture of this. So see the mud water when I push on this? Look at how much water is getting squeezed out of here. You don't want that muddy water. Normally, what you do, you put the crowbar or screwdriver under here, and that's also the press fit. You pop that thing on, it takes a couple bucks. And all you need is know which size you have, because they're different sizes. And then we cannot take this bearing out because we don't have a new seal. So we're going to leave it in there, but we're going to push all that dirty water and mud out of there and all the grease. Get the grease down. So when you put these back on, you have to be careful not to rip up the rubber. Now I know that seal and the bearing is where it needs to be.
So when he was talking about getting the temperature, he was using one of these, and it's just a laser temperature reader. See how when I hit this, it puts a laser right where you want the temperature to be, and then it reads out right there to tell you what that temperature is.
See the inside of that? There's a flat spot on the spindle. That's where this will go. That guarantees that the presses against the race on the bearing, so the bearing can spin, and when you put pressure in it, it's not going to be too bad. This is our lock washer. When I put the nut in there and get it as tight as I want, I will bend this tab back. I'm going to have to get my own Winterization now.
That's right.
So the proper procedure to do this is you get it pretty tight. Now the wheels going pretty hard. And then I back off a little bit. And I feel to see if there's any side motion on the wheel. I like it here. And now you need to get that little tab that we need to bend. You can tighten our back off on the nut so it fits right into one of those. That's called a castle nut. It looks like a castle. and it's regular glue. Fittings like this is called a Zerg fitting. That's where this grease gun fits in, and then you pump the grease out of this tube. That develops huge amounts of pressure. You can probably, hundreds of psi. There's various things this grease gun looks for, but with little hand pressure, it will press the grease everywhere it can. For wheel bearings, there's special wheel bearing grease, and this one says boat trailer and marine equipment. One thing is it has to withstand high temperature, and the second thing is it has to withstand being washed away with salt water. That's quite a difficult thing. For the motor, and then people go and buy, this one costs $10, there's $20, $30 greases, but the cheap grease costs you $1.99. But I think this is a good compromise. It's good for these, and it's definitely good for the motor. There's no bearings or high temperature. We only do it for the tilt and swivel on a motor, so it's very limited application, and that way one grease gun and one type of grease is good for everything. So you put one of those cartridges in there, and sometimes this pump doesn't pick up because this needs to be nice and smooth and free of air bubbles. Okay. And then we need to make sure this pickup point is full of grease. And let's try that again. Then it's cold, it's hard to pump sometimes. So this is spring loaded. There's like a little nipple on there. I press it on. And let's see. Alright, so one person is going to be pumping. Who wants to get dirty? The other person is going to be spinning a wheel. Make sure that bearing gets all the grease worked in. Man, good job, Alex. Look at what's coming out. All right.
In your tube.
Check it out. The grease and dirty water is coming out.
Yeah.
Spin. You keep spinning, more. Like this. Okay, what do you guys think? We got it or some more? That's just some water.
Maybe
A little more.
Keep
Get another 20. Whoa! This always works best if you have a little flat box of wood. So if I knew that this was that kind of axle, I didn't need to show you the bearings, then I would never take it out. But now, the most basic insurance you can do for water not getting next to fill it all with grease. There's no room